In this lesson we're going to take a look at how to recover individual mailbox items, all mailboxes, in an Exchange 2010 database. So this is a slightly different recovery scenario than what we covered in the last lesson, where a full database recovery was performed. So in the production scenario, you might encounter requests from your end users to restore just one mailbox or certain parts of their mailbox because they've accidentally deleted some items or something along those lines. So in that case, you can't restore just the entire mailbox database that particular user is on over the existing one, because of course you would impact multiple other users at the same time, and you wouldn't necessarily achieve the recovery goal of getting back just those few items they want. So let's set up this scenario with our test user Alan Reed, where we'll delete all of the mail items from his inbox from the 11th of February. And just for argument's sake, I'll also empty the deleted items. Now, of course, I still have the opportunity to recover those deleted items from the recoverable deleted items, but let's just imagine in this scenario that he's just discovered those mailbox items are missing and the retention period on the database has already passed. So you have no choice but to go to one of your backups to recover them. So on our server, we need to look at which backup we're going to use to recover that data. So I can use this backup that was taken on the 17th at 2:14 p.m. Because it is after that backup that the data was actually deleted. So we know that it's actually contained within that backup and that the data was deleted afterwards. So let's go ahead and begin the recovery process. And I am restoring from a backup that is stored on this server. And yes, the 17th at 2:14 p.m. is the backup that I want to recover from. So again, the recovery type of applications is the one that we can choose. Click Next, and it discovers that Exchange is the application that was contained within that backup set. And in this case, we do not want to perform a roll forward recovery of the application databases. So I actually want to get access to that database at the exact time that the backup was taken. So I do want to tick this box. If I was to leave that box unchecked and a roll forward recovery was to occur, then all of the changes that have happened since that backup was taken, including the deletion of the data, would be replayed and I would actually achieve nothing. So we want to avoid that action of the data being deleted from being replayed from transaction logs by not performing a roll forward recovery. And because the production database is still intact, it's fine, and we don't want to interrupt service for those existing users, we can go ahead and perform this recovery to an alternate location. So I'll just browse and choose an alternate location now, and we'll create a folder called recovery on the iDrive. In a real world situation, you would just need to make sure that you're picking a disk that has enough free space to store that recovered data. In my case, it can go side by side with the actual production data for Mailbox database too. There's plenty of room there, but in a real world situation, you might need to provision an extra disk just for this recovery purpose. Alright, so those options are all correct, and we go ahead and click recover and wait for that operation to finish. Okay, that recovery has completed successfully, so I'll close that wizard and get Windows Server Backup out of the way. So let's have a look at where we're at now. We can see that Alan Reed's mailbox is still missing those items, but his mailbox is still online, because all I've done so far is restore the last backup to a different location on the server. I haven't actually taken any steps to extract data from that restore and put it into his production mailbox. And we can see back here on the server that recovery folder was created And what Windows Server Backup has done is put a copy of the database and the applicable transaction logs there in that recovery folder for us. So it's done an application restore into that alternate path, and that data is sitting there ready for us to make use of. Our next step is to prepare the restored Mailbox database file so that it can be mounted by Exchange and we can extract data from it. So let's navigate to that folder and have a quick look at the state of the file. So what I'm going to do is run ese util with the mh switch and choose that EDB file. Okay, and it dumps out a whole bunch of information there. And what you can actually do is just pipe that into a find string command and look for the state. Okay, and we get back this state of dirty shutdown. So a database file can be in two states, clean shutdown or dirty shutdown. If it's in a clean shutdown state, it's ready to be mounted. If it's in a dirty shutdown state, then it isn't. So basically means that at the time the file was closed or stopped being written to, that it didn't happen in a clean fashion, and so the integrity of the database may be less than perfect or suspect in some way. So we need to get that into a clean shutdown state before we can go ahead and mount the database for recovery purposes. So let's go and have a look at the transaction logs that go along with that Mailbox database, and we can see here that the file names all start with this E01. So E01 is the log file prefix for this Mailbox database in this case. You'll see other numbers such as E00, E03, E04. It all depends on how many Mailbox databases you have in your organization. So jumping back into the PowerShell, let's go to that folder where those logs are stored. Okay, and we can see all those log files there. And we can do a quick check to see if those log files are all intact. So we do that with ese util/ml and put in the full path to those log files. So iDrive recovery g_mailbox database 2 and the log file prefix of E01. Okay, I just had to wrap that in quotes because there are spaces in my file name directory structure. And it gets all the way to the end and tells us that there are no damaged log files found. So that's good. That means all these log files are intact and we can use them to perform a recovery of that restored database and bring it to a clean shutdown state. So this recovery is also performed with ese util, and the commands get a little bit complicated, so I'll just drop back to the root of iDrive and give us some space here. So what we're going to do is run ese util /r for recovery. We then need to provide the log file prefix, which in this case is E01, followed by the /i parameter, and now /l, and enter the full path to those recovered log files. So in my server that is iDrive recovery g_mailbox database 2, and I should put that in quotes because there is a space in it. And next we need to put /d and also provide the path to the database file. So that will be iDrive again, recovery /i_mailbox database 2, mailbox database 2, 2.edb. Okay, so that's quite a long command, but basically we're running ESCUtil with the recovery option, giving it the log file prefix number, giving it the folder to look in for the logs, and also the folder to look in for the database file itself. So with all of those command line options entered, just hit enter and it should do a soft recovery of the database for us. Alright, so that operation was completed, and it's only a small database in this case, so it just took a few seconds. Larger databases in the real world will of course take longer. So we need to check on the outcome of that and see whether the database is now in a clean shutdown state. So we'll run ESCUtil/mh and that path to the database file again. And unfortunately in my case it's still in a state of dirty shutdown. Okay, so you might find that yours goes into a state of clean shutdown when you perform that soft recovery, or you might be like me and end up in a state of dirty shutdown. So if you need to, you can go ahead and try a repair. So once again ESCUtil/p, and we provide the path to the database file again. We do get a warning here that we should only run repairs on damaged or corrupted databases. So the repair will not apply information in the transaction log files to the database and may cause further information to be lost. In this case, we don't have much choice but to proceed because the soft recovery didn't work. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And again, it only takes a few seconds. So let's have a look at the ESCUtil/mh output again, and I will just save myself the trouble and do a fine string state for that one. Okay, so now the database file is in a state of clean shutdown, so it's going to be possible now for us to mount that with Exchange and begin extracting data from it. So the next step is to create a recovery database that we can use to mount this recovered database file. So we do that again in the Exchange Management Shell. There is it's basically the easiest way to do it. And we're going to use the new Mailbox database commandlet, but with a few specific parameters. So we'll run, I'll just clear that information out at the moment, and we'll run new Mailbox database, and we will call it recovery database. Going to put it on the server EX 2010 server. We set the recovery flag to true because it is a recovery database, not a normal database. We need to set an EDB file path to match the location of the recovered database file. So that will be iDrive recovery Mailbox database 2 Mailbox database 2.edb, and also a logs folder path, once again matching the recovered data that's come back from our backups. So again, iDrive recovery G_Mailbox database 2. And this warning appears that the recovery database was created using an existing file. So it realizes that there is an existing file in that location, and it just warns us that the database must be brought into a clean shutdown state before it can be mounted. So that's something we've already done with all of that work with ESC util. So we can now go ahead and try and mount that recovery database. So say mount database, recovery database. Okay, there's no errors, so that appears to have been successful. We can check that here in the database management section of the management console. Just refresh, and there's our recovery database there. It's mounted on Exchange Server EX 2010 server. So now let's have a look at what we can actually get out of that recovery database. So I'll drop back to the shell again, and we'll run get mailbox statistics database recovery database. And we can see that Alan Reed's mailbox is in there, and there was an item count of 16 at the time that backup was taken. So there certainly is data in there for Alan Reed within that recovery database that we can now look to extract. So I'm going to go ahead and do a pretty simple restore from that recovery database. I'm just going to basically extract everything out of that mailbox within the recovery database and put it into a subfolder of Alan Reed's inbox, and let the user basically sort it out from there. So he gets access to all of the recovered data, he can work out what he needs to keep and what he can discard. So we go ahead and run a command in the Exchange Management shell. We use restore mailbox, and we're restoring the mailbox of Alan Reed. The recovery database that we want to recover from is called recovery database. The mailbox, the recovery mailbox is Alan Reed, and I'm going to put that into a target folder called mailbox restore, just all one word. Okay, so it's not picked that up using the aliases, so we'll try just using the display name instead. And give that a go. Alright, that's better. So it asked me, am I sure I want to perform this action, recovering mailbox content from Alan Reed's mailbox in the recovery database to the mailbox for Alan Reed. This operation may take a long time to complete, so in the real world, if you were extracting several gigabytes of data, this could actually take a little while. In this example scenario, it's only a very small amount of data, so I'll just say yes to continue. Okay, and that's flown through really quickly, and this mailbox in the recovery database has been restored to the target user mailbox. So let's go ahead and have a look at the result of that in Alan's Outlook. We can see that this folder mailbox restore has appeared, and within that is this recovered data folder that got automatically generated, and there is all of the inbox mailbox folders. We can see the inbox was there, and those 4 items that Alan was missing and that he wanted back can be located in there, and he can put them back in his inbox if he wants to, or wherever he wants. And eventually, when he's happy that all of that data is safely recovered, he can just go ahead and delete that restored folder. So that restore mailbox command that was run, it has a lot of flexibility and power to it. You can restore items. You can restore an entire mailbox, as I've just demonstrated, or you can restore only items between a particular date. You can include and exclude certain mailbox folders. There's a lot of granularity and a lot of detail with how you can filter down that restore command. just depending on the situation that you've encountered in the real world. I often find it's just simpler just to dump the entire mailbox into a folder and basically sort out the data from there, because sometimes people don't know exactly the details of what they're looking for. So give them the maximum amount of data, which gives them a bit of time to search through it and find what they're looking for. So that's the end of this lesson on recovering individual mailbox items and folders. You can go ahead and practice a few different scenarios there if you wish. And if you have any questions about any of this, be sure to ask in the Exchange Server Pro forums.